The May 12th, 2022 work session for the Stanton City Council to order. The first item on the agenda is a consideration of work session and regular meeting agendas. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Councilor Claffey.
I recommend we accept the work session and regular meeting as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept the work session and regular meeting agendas as presented. Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
Vice Mayor Robertson has second. Any further discussion? And hearing none, Mr. Kessicker, please call the roll.
Mr. Claffey.
Aye.
Ms. Dahl.
Aye.
Ms. Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Oakes.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson.
Aye.
Ms. Mead.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Before we go into closed meeting, we are going to take a short recess. So at this time, we are on recess. Are we good? All right, we're back from break, and at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor,
Vice Mayor Robertson.
I move to enter a closed meeting for discussion, interviewing, and consideration of the prospective candidates for the Equity and Diversity Commission pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1.
All right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second. It's Terry Holmes.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Kessicker, please call the roll.
Ms. Dahl.
Aye.
Ms. Darby.
Aye.
Mayor Oakes.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson.
Aye.
Ms. Mead.
Aye.
Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Mr. Claffey.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. We're now in closed session. All right, I'll entertain a motion to come back into an open session.
Madam Mayor,
Councilor Claffey.
I move the council reconvene in an open meeting and certify to the best of each member's knowledge that only lawfully exempted public business matters were discussed and that only public business matters as identified in the closed meeting motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Madam Mayor,
Vice Mayor Robertson.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's a second. Any further discussion? And hearing none, Mr. Kessicker, please call the roll.
Ms. Mead.
Aye.
Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson.
Aye.
Mayor Oakes.
Aye.
Ms. Darby.
Aye.
Ms. Dahl.
Aye.
Mr. Claffey.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. We're now back in an open session. And with that, I will call the work session adjourned, and we will be back for the regular meeting at 7:30. Ready. As mayor of the city of Stanton, I call the May 12th, 2022 regular Stanton City Council meeting to order. And the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to join me, please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the invocation, moment of silence, and tonight is Councilor Mead's turn.
Thank you. I've asked Sheila Ahmadi to come forward to do the invocation moment of silence.
Hi, welcome.
Good evening. I'm honored to have been asked by Councilwoman Mead to read one of the poems from my book, From Pain to Awakening, Evolving into Women of Substance, at the invocation this evening. My poetry is about choice and change. The poem I have chosen speaks to the insanity of inhumanity and how we treat each other based upon differences and the choice and change needed to rise to a higher level of humanity. Differences, its many human elements. Time has rhythm without end. It changes days into months, months into years, and years into decades. There are some things elusive to time that is out of its domain. Certain human elements and feelings and behaviors remain constant with slow change. Fear, harassment, discrimination, stigmatization, victimization are human frailties that continue to exist and exert unimaginable stress and pain. Why homophobia, racism, sexism, classism, and other isms continue to exist? It's a perplexing matter. If you are human and a bit inquisitive, you can dialogue in your mind people and situations you don't understand. No matter the degree of your understanding or knowledge deficit, rude remarks, open contempt, or entertaining physical threat or emotional harm to someone you don't like or understand, whether they are gay, bisexual, transgender, a different race, religion, or culture, is out of the question. We have to check our thoughts, responses, and actions throughout our life. With the complexity of national and international problems that shadow our life, individual conscious thought on how we treat each other should come first and not always last. When we can acknowledge differences, commit to live our lives with tolerance, to eliminate hate and discrimination, our humanity will elevate to a higher level of peaceful coexistence.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. The next item is the mayor's report. The first item under the mayor's report is a proclamation, Bike Month 2022. City of Stanton, Virginia proclamation, Bike Month 2022. Whereas bicycling has been an important part of the lives of many Americans for more than a century. And today, City of Stanton residents of all ages engage in biking for transportation, recreation, fitness, and fun. And whereas bicycling offers independent mobility for Stantonians traveling between work, school, and home, and when used as a means of transportation, benefits all residents of Stanton by easing traffic congestion, reducing air pollution, and saving highway construction dollars. And whereas bicycling is recognized as an activity that can reduce the onset of chronic disease and reduce childhood obesity, and its consideration in transportation and land use planning will help create a healthier and more active community in Stanton. And whereas bicycling offers a unique perspective from which residents and visitors may discover Stanton's natural beauty, history, and culture. And whereas Bike Month provides an opportunity to increase public awareness of the many benefits of bicycling to promote bicyclist safety and to encourage bicycling. Now, therefore, it be it proclaimed by Stanton City Council that May 2022 is hereby designated as Bike Month in the city of Stanton. And council recognizes with great appreciation the efforts of the Stanton Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to foster a more bicycle and pedestrian friendly community. Adopted this 12th day of May 2022, Andrea Oakes, Mayor. It's my understanding Sarah Holbrook, the chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, is here. Oh, there you are, Sarah. All right, we have a very nice proclamation to hand you.
Thank you for the proclamation. It's nice to have a month for biking, and I despite the weather today, I hope there are a lot of people out biking. This is a time when you do see a lot of bikers out in Stanton, and it really has grown. Thank you all for the proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, so the next item is a proclamation for letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day. And Councillor Mead would like to introduce some folks in the audience.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Mr. Tom Miller. Is Mr. Miller here? Tom Miller, you want to come up? Tom is president of the Stanton branch of the National Association of Letter Carriers. Is Mr. McKee here? Nope, okay. Cindy Connors is here tonight as well. Cindy is the food drive coordinator, and she's also a retired member of the local National Association of Letter Carriers Branch 513. And probably the most important person in the room is Megan Vernon. Megan, if you'll come up. Megan is the letter carrier for the Stanton downtown homes and businesses, and she's also a member of the 513 branch. So thanks all of you for being here tonight.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation, and then we'll have some really nice copies to give each one of you. So if you don't mind hanging out just for a moment. City of Stanton, Virginia proclamation, letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day, May 14th, 2022. Whereas every year on the second Saturday in May, letter carriers across the country collect non-perishable food as part of the nation's largest one-day food drive, distributing the donations to local food banks. And whereas the letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive is just one example of how letter carriers work to make a difference in the lives of those they serve. Since the pilot drive was held in 1991, more than 1.82 billion pounds of food have been collected. And whereas we recognize all letter carriers for their hard work and their commitment to their communities, all the food collected in our community stays in our community, and we support carriers' efforts to help those in need in our community. And whereas we also recognize the noteworthy milestone of 30 years that the National Letter Carrier Food Drive celebrates in 2022. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by Stanton City Council that May 14th, 2022 is hereby designated as Letter Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day in the city of Stanton, and we encourage the citizens of our community to support the Letter Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive by placing non-perishable food items for donation to the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank in or near your mailbox on the morning of Food Drive Day. Your letter carrier and volunteers will pick up your donations, and together we can help to feed our hungry. Adopted this 12th day of May, 2022, Andrea W. Oakes, Mayor. And you all have been properly introduced. Now, Ms. Connors, it's my understanding you have been working with this from the onset.
Excuse me, close to that.
Okay.
Yeah, about the first year I was a letter carrier was the second year we did the drive. So, but I think Tom's been doing it as long as I have. But I did have the privilege of working to help coordinate it nationally for a few years too. So this is a really important drive to all of us.
Well, I love the t-shirt.
Thank you. I promised Tom he could say something.
All right.
On the hot spot.
Definitely. Tell me when to send these to you, and then we're going to let you have.
Sure.
Scheduled to speak for an hour. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ready? 1, 2.
Please feel free.
All right. I don't plan on speaking for an hour, but I just wanted to say that we're very grateful to have this opportunity to serve the community. And I just want to thank council and everybody else for your support. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item under the mayor's report. Yeah, and you all feel free to leave. Unless you want to stay for the meeting, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, if you want to get on home, by all means. All right, so the next item under the mayor's report, I wanted to just advise the council that I had a conversation with Ann Lewis. She is with Baker Tilly, And we discussed the process concerning the search for the permanent city manager. She will be attending our meeting in June. It's June 9th, and she will give a more detailed report at that time. All right, the next item is additional items by members of council. Does council have any additional items they would like to present? All right, hearing none. The next item is the approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the special meeting of April 21st, 2022.
This is Brenda Mead.
Councilor Mead,
I move to approve the minutes of the special meeting of April 21st, 2022.
all right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Vice Mayor Robertson has second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Kessinger, please call the roll.
Mayor Oakes,
Aye.
Ms. Mead,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Dahl,
Aye.
Ms. Darby,
Aye.
Mr. Claffey.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. The next item is the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of April 28th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion.
This is Brenda Mead. I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of April 28th, 2022.
All right, thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, Councilor Holmes is second. Any further discussion? And hearing none, Mr. Kessinger, please call the roll.
Ms. Dahl,
Aye.
Ms. Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Oakes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Mead,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Claffey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right, that takes us to the regular meeting schedule. And the first item is item A, a presentation of Kenneth L. Jones plaque. At the Stanton City Council, we are very proud to present a commemorative plaque for Mr. Kenneth L. Jones. The plaque will be placed on the first floor of City Hall near the display for the Stanton Augusta County African American Research Society. So that's when you come into City Hall and you pass the Commissioner of Revenue's office. It'll be hanging up on the wall to the left. Kenneth Lee Jones was an African American businessman, and among his many accomplishments was the founding of Stanton's outstanding business establishment, the Kenneth Jones Funeral Home in 1946. In addition, Mr. Jones was a City of Stanton council member, was the city's first African-American vice mayor, and was involved in many other community-related organizations and events. Mr. Jones was also a NAACP member and provided support to the integration of the Stanton bus and train systems. He was the keynote speaker at the dedication of the Montgomery Hall Park Pool in 1950. Family members and friends are in attendance tonight to celebrate his accomplishments. Now I have the plaque itself to read, and I must say, we're very proud of how the plaque turned out. It's heavy. Isn't that nice? Yes, absolutely. I am going to read this, and then I would like to have some pictures taken with his family. I believe his niece and nephew are in the audience. And then I'd like to have some pictures with everyone else. Mr. Kenneth Jones, born on October 26, 1905, and died on December 1st, 2004, was a prominent member of the Stanton community. He served as a city council member from 1968 to 1972. During his term, he served as vice mayor for 2 years, the first African-American to do so. Mr. Jones was an outstanding leader during the era of segregation, and among other accomplishments, provided support to the integration of the Stanton bus and train systems. He was one of several community members on Stanton's revamped interracial committee in 1943 that was initially organized in 1936. He served as secretary of this committee. He was a unique man who was widely known for his generous philanthropy and altruism to his family, church, and neighbors. As a mortician and funeral director in Stanton for 49 years, he provided burial services for over 3,000 people, including funeral services at no cost for those unable to pay. Mr. Jones also served as executive secretary to the president of Langston University, Oklahoma, and was a principal of Rosenwald High School in Waynesboro, as well as serving as the director and teacher of the adult school. Having served on a long list of community organizations, Mr. Jones was a member of the NAACP, a lifetime member of Mount Sinai Masonic Lodge number 18 for 64 years, and a lifetime member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Mr. Jones served as the keynote speaker at the dedication of the Montgomery Hall Park Pool in 1950. Past Vice Mayor Jones was truly an icon for the city of Stanton. Stanton is what it is today because of his contributions. So thank you to his family. And we are very, very proud and honored to be a part of this moment. So.
Mhm.
Come on, Opal, come on up. Oh, come on. Anyone else? Susie?
No, I want to take a picture for me.
Okay.
In Florida.
Oh, definitely. Thank you.
On behalf of the African American Research Society, the family, to the council, to the members, community of Stanton, Virginia, it gives us great honor to put this plaque in the city of Stanton. We'd like to thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Put it on the table.
Right. So that takes us on to item B, which is a public hearing. We are going to have 4 public hearings tonight. So yeah. So I'm going to read some information here that the city attorney asked me to read before the public hearings. In a moment, I will open the public hearing. It is a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about specific topics. We ask that you please give your name, your address, and then keep your remarks at 5 minutes or less. When you reach the 5-minute time limit, I will let you know that your time limit has expired. For our Zoom participants, please raise your hand now if you wish to speak on this particular public hearing. If you raise your hand during this public hearing, you will also be able to raise your hand during the council meeting for other public hearings and matters from the public. And please keep your comments to 5 minutes as well. Once everyone who wishes to speak has had an opportunity, I will then close the public hearing. I will now open the public hearing, so if you wish to speak, please approach the podium and we'll alternate between individuals physically present and those that have their hands raised via Zoom platform. So essentially, when I bang the gavel, that'll open up the public hearing. And folks from the audience can come up and speak for or against the item that is being discussed. Now, if you have another issue, if you can wait until matters from the public, that would be appreciated. We will go in order. Again, there's 4 different public hearings. Once I bang the gavel, that'll close the public hearing out, and we're going to alternate between the audience and folks on Zoom. So with that,
We haven't
well,
discussed this.
that's right. We sure haven't. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm ready to roll. Okay, so the public hearing and consideration of a request by Valley Supportive Housing for a special use permit for 111 Pump Street to allow residential use on the ground floor. Ms. Beauregard,
Mr. Rodney Rhodes will handle this item this evening.
welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Oakes and City Council members. Valley Supportive Housing has requested a special use permit to use the ground level of the building located at 111 Pump Street for 6 multifamily residential units. This building and this bottom level has for a long time been the location of Stanton Glass Company. The property is Zone B2 General Business District, which requires a special use permit for residential development on the ground and basement levels. That's why it's before you today. As you would note in the staff briefing, staff has reviewed this request and has identified no issues. I understand that council members have received an email a couple of days ago questioning about the floodplain and whether or not the city should be encouraging residential development in the floodplain. This was an issue that came up actually years ago. And it was resolved to staff satisfaction. So that is why the statement is in here that staff sees no issues with it. In that particular case, a flood elevation certification was provided back in July of 2020, so almost 2 years ago, showing that the level that these units would be is above the floodplain.
Okay.
There's an extensive crawl space underneath this building that is in the flood zone, but the elevation where the units would be is above that. And if council has any specific questions about that, Mr. John Glover, who's the building official and floodplain manager, is here.
Right. Are there any questions by council?
I'll continue. Due to the topography, the ground floor of this building resembles more of a basement and is therefore less conducive for commercial and business use. Also, parking in this area is very limited with only a few on-street parking spaces on Pump Street and no parking spaces that meet our commercial requirements. There are also a number of residences already existing in the area. Currently, the second floor of the building consists of 6 multifamily residential units, which are occupied by residents of the Valley Supportive Housing Program. So now they're looking to duplicate that and have 6 on the level below it. They have recently received a grant from the Central Shenandoah Planning District Commission to convert that commercial space to residential space. I would say the grant covered like half the cost. And as far as parking on this, parking is required at the rate of 1 parking space per 2 units. And this is actually probably the lowest parking rate that we require under our zoning ordinance for residential use. Normally an apartment would require 2 parking spaces per unit. However, for the elderly and for those with disabilities, we reduce that to 1 space per 2 units, because actually very, very few of them have cars. I would note that there's currently 6 parking spaces on the upper level that's off of Lewis Street, and that satisfies the parking requirements for all 12 units, the existing and the proposed. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on April 21st, and no one spoke in opposition to the special use permit, and on a 5-0 vote, the commission voted to recommend approval of special use permit with the following conditions. 1, all multifamily units must be used for the elderly and or persons with disabilities. And that's because of the parking ratio. If this was like I stated just a second ago, if this was just straight standalone multifamily, they would need 24 parking spaces as opposed to 6 parking spaces. So that's a big difference. And that could really have some impacts on the neighborhood and on-street parking there. 2, the 6 existing parking spaces on the property must be maintained for use by the tenants. And 3, violation of any condition of approval of the special use permit will result in immediate revocation of the special use permit. I'd be glad to take any questions that council has at this time or after you conduct the public hearing.
Right. Vice Mayor Robertson.
Rodney, just one question that just came to mind. You said it's above the floodplain, but you said the basement level falls within it. I reckon my question is, let's say it does get flooded. Does that set up a condition where if not dried out properly, fungus, mold, whatever could cause? I'm just asking because I just don't know. And
Mr. Glover's on his way up here.
Thank you, John.
There is no proposed addition to this building, so there are no requirements that it meet any other additional standards. They're not expanding the footprint. But as far as your question, I'll let Mr. Glover, the expert, answer it.
Okay.
Yes, like Rodney was saying, it's all the renovations that are going to take place are on what FEMA would deem as the second floor. Because the basement would be the ground floor, and then the next floor up would be the first floor. So that's where all the renovations are taking place. Again, it's not an addition to the building. They're not increasing the footprint, so there's no requirement. I do believe the building has a concrete floor between those two. So if there is any flooding, it does have vents and openings where the water could drain out rather quickly to dry it out. And with the concrete slabs, suspended slab, I don't think you would have much moisture issue leaching up into the upstairs.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions by Councilor Holmes?
Rodney, are they allowed to park on Pump Street? Is there any parking on Pump Street at all?
No, sir. There are no parking spaces on Pump Street that meet our standards for what a parking space is.
All right. Any additional questions? We normally give the applicant an opportunity to speak. Is there anyone from the Valley Area Community Support that would like to speak? Yeah. Come on up. If you can go to the podium. Yes, sir.
My name is Lou Siegel. I'm the Executive Director for Valley Area Community Support, and I'm willing to take any kind of questions you have. Would you like just a little background on what we do?
Yes, please.
Okay, our mission states that we supply apartments only to individuals with a diagnosed mental health illness, a learning disability, or in some sort of recovery from drug or alcohol abuse program. So in order to get an apartment with us, you've got to have some sort of issue that's a diagnosed issue. Typically, and I would say 95% of the tenants have an income of around $800 a month. We set our rents at the $500 level a month to include all utilities. Now, if you went on the Stanton market, that would be $750 or $800, something like that. So we meet 75% of our budget with rents, and the other 25% comes from local grants, fundraising event, things like United Way, Capsule out of Waynesboro. And we always have a very small profit, if you want to call it that. When we in the special use permit request, it refers to multifamily. For us, 100% of our spaces of our apartments are occupied by a single individual. This is the most difficult group in that community to house. We have, on a rare occasion, maybe 2 times in the last 17 years of our existence, had a second individual move in with the first, but that never lasted more than a month or 2. So we're very comfortable with saying that 100% of our tenants, of our apartments, are occupied by a single individual. Of the 42 apartments we have now, we have 5 cars, 5 automobiles. You can imagine on $800 a month, once you finish paying your rent and allocate some money for food and medicine, maybe some transportation, there's just nothing left over to speak of. So that's in a nutshell what we do. We want to add, well, let me just say, once a month I go to a meeting that involves a variety of different individuals who are involved in sheltering homeless. And probably 60% of our tenants came right out of homelessness. So in these meetings, inevitably, after we look at the various categories, chronic, veterans, youth, there's inevitably another 120 people that are taking advantage of, say, government programs relative to motels or in shelters like Valley Mission or Warm over in Waynesboro and up in Verona. So we serve what we think is it's our mission to do what we're doing. And so we wanted to add another 6. We'll have 48 total. And we feel very comfortable relative to working with the city on that and working with citizens on that. We have on-site management every day, except maybe Saturdays, Sundays, but we're always on call. So.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Robertson.
Mr. Siegel, I must say I admire and appreciate what your organization is doing and trying to achieve. I do have one question. If we give approval tonight, from tonight, what kind of time frame are you looking at being able to complete your renovations and possibly have move-in ready?
At the outside, we're hoping that's going to be June 30, 2023.
Okay. All right.
Any additional questions? Councilor Dole.
Yes, Mr. Siegel, if you had to give an educated guess, how many apartments would you need to solve the homeless situation for those with disabilities?
That's really difficult to answer. Some individuals just don't want to have what you might refer to as a permanent supportive housing situation. If I were to take a guess, I'd say 90. There'll always be a need for the Mission, Valley Mission, always a need for Warm. And it's just really difficult to put a finger on it. And we're only talking about the SAW area.
Right.
Again, we're not talking about Rockingham. We're not talking about Rockbridge County. And it's easy to overflow and pull people from those areas too.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, with that, now I get to hit the gavel. I'm just excited to hear from the citizens. So with that, the public hearing is now open. If you'd like to speak concerning this matter, please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes to speak. Anyone? All right. Mr. Kestiker, do we have anyone with their hands raised in Zoom?
No.
Right. One last chance. Anyone else in the audience? All right. With that, the public hearing is now closed. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Oakes,
Councilor Dole.
I move the council approve the special use permit with conditions as recommended by the Planning Commission.
All right, thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'll second that.
All right, Councilor Claffey is second. Any further discussion? And hearing none, Mr. Kessiker, please call the roll.
Ms. Mead,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Claffey,
Aye.
Ms. Dull,
Aye.
Ms. Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Oakes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. That takes us to item C, a public hearing and consideration of an ordinance amending the timing of water sewer connection and facility fees. Ms. Beauregard,
Mr. Jeff Johnson, our Public Works Director, will walk us through this item.
welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of council, in the words of Phil Trayer, it is great to be here. Tonight, we are proposing to make a change to the connection and facility fees that are paid when new connections are made to our utility system. The actual fees themselves remain unchanged going into next year, but we are proposing a change to the timing of those fees. Currently, the city code requires those fees to be paid when a final plat is approved, if a final plat is required. If a final plat is not required, they are paid when the building permit is issued, if a building permit is issued. And if a building permit is not issued, they are paid at the moment of service. It creates a three-tier system in which different projects pay their fees at different times. It is complicated, it's a little bit confusing, and the perception is that it's not entirely equitable. What we are proposing is that all projects pay their connection and facility fees when the service is requested, when the actual connection is made to the water system, whether that's a pipe connection or setting a meter, that's when it is paid. This accomplishes a number of things. First and foremost, it reduces 3 paragraphs of city code into 1 sentence of city code. Number 2, it treats all projects, whether they are subdivisions or a garden shed, the exact same way when they connect to our utility system. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and we'll hang around in case there's any questions that come up at the public hearing.
Right. Are there any questions by council members? All right, thank you. All right, same as before, when I hit the gavel, feel free to come up and address this issue, and we'll alternate between the audience and if anyone has their hand raised on Zoom. So with that, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to address the council? Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, my name is Scott Williams. My address is 82 Old Oaks Drive, Fishersville, Virginia. I am here on behalf of the Augusta Home Builders Association. I want to speak in support of this change. Facility fees are impact fees, and in my opinion, and I think with the other members of our association, they should be timed with the actual impact. And the impact occurs when service is requested or a hookup is made. The Home Builders Association represents about 130 members within our trade group. We are builders, we're developers, we're electricians, we're architects and engineers. So we have a vast membership. Membership believes in promoting affordable housing as best we can. This will help reduce costs because it puts off the timing of when those fees have to be paid. So in some ways, this will help lower costs or lower our builders' costs and should help filter down through the process. I'd also like to say thank you personally to Mr. Vaughn, who we've been working with as our group for a couple of years. We have been meeting sporadically because of COVID, but to identify issues within the building process and developing process where there is friction or delays, things that we've identified, things that staff has identified. And I have to say that over those couple of years, we've had productive meetings and we've identified problems and we've resolved some of them. This is one of the items that we identified as something that would be helpful. Augusta County Service Authority changed their policy a couple of years ago to have it set up similarly. So their fees are due when a service is requested. So in my mind, it makes the process fairer for the community. And I think it will have tangible benefits in home costs or construction costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kestaker, does anyone have their hand raised in Zoom?
No, ma'am.
Anyone else from the audience? We have somebody coming up from behind you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Seth Bolkelman, 176 Woodland Place in Lyndhurst. I am a community banker operating here in the city of Stanton. I too would be in favor of this motion. From a banking standpoint, from a financing standpoint, most of the projects I imagine do get some sort of financing for construction of either a building, multifamily residence, or a commercial project. We would base that based on the stage of completion. So we look for the work to be completed before we reimburse the builder for their expenses. So this would fall in line with what we would be looking for. It would be atypical for a bank or finance company to advance monies off of a construction loan without the work being completed prior. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have their hand raised?
No, ma'am.
All right. Yes, sir.
My name is David Surratt, 1308 Long Meadow Road, Fishersville. And I'm here to represent a builder, represent Long Meadow LTD, which has built all the homes up at Forest Ridge. And I'm very much in favor of this motion. We need to do that because putting out a huge fee right at the first, a lot of young builders, that makes a real struggle for them. And I'd like to see Stanton grow, and this would be one way to help it to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. One last time. Anyone with their hand raised?
No, ma'am.
All right. Anyone else in the audience? Hey, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Philip Brown, 5061 Lee Jackson Highway. I am also in support and favor of this amendment. I do want to echo Scott and his remarks regarding Billy Vaughn and John Glover, Rodney Rhodes, and those that have been in favor are sort of helping us through this process. Currently, right now, I am half owner of George Owens Construction along with my partner, Danny Owen, and we have 13 projects in the city of Stanton, not to exclude the 7.5 acres that we just purchased off of New Hope Road for light industrial. I am also now I guess you would say the proud owner of phase 4 of Old South subdivision. And we're in the preliminary plans of approving of the next 32 lots on phase 4. And as Seth had mentioned, as a builder and as a developer, when you have almost 2/3 of your costs coming out of facility fees, it impacts with the rising cost of inflation, with the rising cost of product, of materials, and also with just standard delays. It costs a lot of money. And when you're sitting on that for such a long period of time, 4 to 5 to 6 months of developing that, and you've got $500,000 involved with the interest clock ticking, it's tough. And as Seth mentioned, those fees aren't reimbursed until later in the process. And so, which is also allows you or stunts your availability to build new homes. And so I want to thank those that have supported this amendment. Hopefully we'll get passed tonight to help us continue the growth and look forward for the next, hopefully 5 to 7 years to continue building in the city of Stanton. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Kessiker, anyone with their hand raised?
No, ma'am.
All right. Welcome.
If I can do this right this time. Richard Landis, 107 Sycamore Creek, Stanton, Virginia. I just want to echo what everybody said, that we were very proud of Stanton, and I am too, have a lot of property here and a lot of employees. And I would love to see this get passed. It is a huge impact. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. With that, the public hearing is now closed and I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Oakes.
Councillor Dole.
Well, with kudos to Mr. Vaughn and Mr. Glover and Mr. Rhodes, I move that City Council adopt the ordinance amending section 13.15.060 water connection charges, connection fees of chapter 13.05 in general and section 13.40.030 sewer connection and facility fees of chapter 13.40 connections to city sewer systems of title 13 environment of the Stanton City Code.
Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Robertson.
I will second that.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion or comments? I would just like to say that I will be supporting this measure. It's the right thing to do. All right, Mr. Kessiker, please call the roll.
Ms. Dull.
Aye.
Ms. Darby.
Aye.
Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Mayor Oakes.
Aye.
Ms. Mead.
Aye.
Mr. Claffey.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right, that takes us to item D, a public hearing in consideration of an ordinance authorizing a lease agreement between City of Stanton and Happy Birthday America Incorporated. Ms. Beauregard.
So John Blair will actually walk through this item, but we also have here this evening some representatives from Happy Birthday America. Andrew Dietz is on Zoom, and I believe Langdon Reed, Langdon's here in the back. So Langdon Reed is here as well. So they are happy to answer any questions after John before the public hearing, after Mr. Blair finishes what he has to say about the lease agreement.
And Mr. Reed will be signing autographs.
That's up to him, I suppose, so.
Right, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Oaks and council. Before you this evening, you have the lease of Gypsy Hill Park, as well as Gypsy Hill Gymnasium for a very brief period before Gypsy Hill Park will be utilized for the Happy Birthday America celebration for July 4th. The lease does have one change from previous years that we made. And that is, I believe that the organizers, and they might address this in their comments, are perhaps considering reintroducing rides for small children. So there are provisions in the lease which would permit for rides for small children if they're able to secure that service. Otherwise, again, this is to lease Gypsy Hill Park for the Happy Birthday America celebration. All events are to be concluded July 4th by 11:30 p.m. Happy to answer any questions.
Right. Any questions? I have one. Will the rides include big kids?
I'll let them address that, but as the proud parent of a soon-to-be 9-year-old, I'm sure he will enjoy the ride.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Dietz, would you like to make any comments?
Yes, thank you very much. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Madam Mayor, members of council, good evening. My name is Andrew Dietz, and I am the current president of our Happy Birthday America fully volunteer organization. So to answer your first question, the rides that we're shooting for this year will be for ages 12 and under. And just a few that we're hoping to secure. But we'll see in later years, we might be able to get some larger attractions. I do very much on behalf of Happy Birthday America, I want to thank you all for your time this evening. Thank you, the city of Stanton, thank City Council for your consideration, your support, and your partnership. Celebrating July 4th in Stanton has been a time-honored tradition since the Statler started it over 50 years ago. And just a few years ago, Langdon and Will of Wilson Fairchild breathed new life into it with Happy Birthday America. And as we've heard from many through social media and other outlets, the citizens of Stanton and surrounding areas and even beyond are super excited and are ready for a parade, free live music and fireworks, and to celebrate our nation live and not virtual. So we are super excited. It's an honor to serve our community in this way. And we just greatly appreciate your time and your consideration and partnership in this event.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Dietz? All right, hearing none. Mr. Reed, did you want to address the council?
Certainly. Thank you all. Langdon Reed and Madam Mayor, members of council, thank you for your time here tonight. And I'm here to, again, represent Happy Birthday America Committee as well as Wilson Fairchild. And, you know, Andrew said it all perfectly. The two things I want to make sure that we say in remarks tonight is, again, our excitement on our behalf to be able to get back out there. And we are feeling that same excitement and electricity from the people as well. To get back out here, celebrate America. And as he said, this, I think if my quick math serves me right, this is going to be about the 53rd year that this celebration has been going on in Stanton. And we're just excited to be a part of it. And the other thing too is our gratitude. There's a lot of wheels in motion for this vehicle to run smoothly and properly. And everyone from the city, we have monthly meetings and with city manager, Parks and Rec, Public Works, the firemen, policemen. I know when you list somebody, you always leave somebody out, so I apologize. But you all know who you are, that there's so many accommodating and willing people to really step up and really make this happen. And again, the event is for the city and it's for the community, by the community, and with the community. And we are so appreciative of everyone who jumps on board and can offer this free event over the course of about 2.5 days. So we appreciate everybody involved.
Well, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Reed? All right, thank you. And with that, the public hearing is now open. Would anyone from the audience care to address the council concerning this matter? Right. Mr. Kessicker, do we have anyone with their hands raised?
No, ma'am.
One last shot. All right.
Matt,
If you want to come up to the podium. Okay.
This is Barbara Lee, 904 Rockaway Street. I just want to ask this gentleman who his father is.
My father is Don Reed. Is that all right?
And another.
Please don't hold that against me.
Another icon of Stanton. So,
Madam Mayor,
all right, Vice Mayor Robertson.
I move that City Council adopt the ordinance authorizing the approval of the lease agreement between the City of Stanton and Happy Birthday America Incorporated, and further authorizing the interim city manager to execute the lease agreement with such modifications and in final form as approved by the city attorney.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to second that.
All right, Councilor Clappy is second. Any further discussion?
I just want to see a lot of fireworks, Andrew.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Kessicker, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Mead,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Claffey,
Aye.
Ms. Dull,
Aye.
Ms. Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Oakes.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right,
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item E, a public hearing in consideration of an ordinance authorizing the lease agreement between City of Stanton and Stanton Baseball Incorporated for the limited use of baseball field and operations of concession rights. Ms. Beauregard.
So Mr. John Blair will also talk to this item, but I believe the owner of the Stanton Braves, Lance, how do you say your last name? Mock is here.
Okay.
And he's also available to answer any questions or address anything that council would like to ask him about. So.
Perfect, thank you. Welcome back, Mr. Blair.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, members of council. Before you tonight, you have the lease agreement for Stanton Baseball Incorporated to use the field at Gypsy Hill Park. It should be noted that there will be a May 13th will be when the club will probably begin its operations. However, field use will not start until after May the 23rd. This allows the Stanton Braves to participate in the Valley Baseball League. And I do think this year there is a possibility, and I will allow the Stanton Braves representative to address this, that as part of the concessions offered, there may be beer offered as well. And so with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Are there any questions by council members? Councilor Holmes.
Is it okay to do alcohol? I mean, do you just get a special use
You get the special
permit from the ABC?
Yes, you get the special. It's, I guess they would, and I'll let them address their, there's now, they've kind of, I guess, expanded those categories. It used to be special event was for weddings, but they also had a multi-event permit. And then they also have now what's called a designated outdoor area. But I will allow the Stanton Braves representative to express exactly what type of permit they may be pursuing.
I think it's great. I just, I'm surprised the ABC has loosened up that much. It's kind of.
Well, they do. I do know that at UVA games now, there is alcohol available. So, and that's just a change in the last 3 or 4 years. So.
All right, welcome.
Welcome. I'm Lance Malk. I'm the president of the Stanton Braves Baseball Club. So the way that I have designed to set beer sales up, it would not be sold up at the concession stand where kids come in. That picnic area down by the third base side will be transformed to only 21-year-olds and older will get a wristband and will purchase beer there. And there will not be any beer up top.
Be like a beer garden?
Correct.
No. Okay.
Vice
And,
Mayor-
and an ABC, they do event permits. So it'll fall under the event permit category.
Okay, Vice
Now,
Mayor Robertson.
Lance, can they, once they purchase their beer down along the third baseline, can they then carry it back up into the stand?
Yes.
Okay.
But they'll have a wristband on.
Right.
And we have security on, well, we have, the gates are on both sides are, have people at the doors.
Yeah.
So they can't leave
One-
with,
Is it one beer per person?
Yes.
For a rich man?
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know, and I'm opposed to working with however we want to do this. I know someone told me last night at the Cavaliers baseball games, they give X's on their bands and they can only have like a 4 beer limit, 4 X's on their band and they're done for the night. So, and we plan on stopping at the 7th inning as well, which probably puts us about 9:30. I'm assuming. So.
I know Councilor Claffey has a question.
Not about the alcohol, but about the outfield. Do you have any intention of working on the
fence?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And I understand what you want to tell us about it and
Well, this fall I got a couple quotes to replace the fence. That is in the realm of about $36,000. We are a nonprofit organization. We are solely responsible on fixing up the facility. So what I am planning on doing, starting hopefully next week, is piecemealing that fence repair, starting with center field and going out that way. Because there are some bad spots out there, and I'm aware. I've been working with Mary Baldwin for the last year because they're college kids and they hit the ball a little bit farther than the high school kids do.
Right.
So their impact a little bit more than Stanton High School. So the plan is to replace the fence. But I want to keep the wood at the fence. I just think the look of the wood outfield is attractive, especially with the billboards up there. And plywood's about $60 a sheet. So it's about $180 for one section. So I'm looking to do probably 10 to 12 sections in as we go along.
Vice Mayor Robertson.
Okay. And
do you have the ability to push that wall back any?
that's my question.
That is, I wish that was the case. I was told, we inquired to Chris Tuttle last summer and the trees are the issue.
Okay.
I'm not one to say the trees can come down. That's not my call.
Because I know Mary Baldwin has been,
I know they
Mary
want to-
Baldwin, they want it moved back
They want
because
to move,
it's,
they want it moved back.
Right.
It's not my call. I would love to move it back. But that's between horticulture and
Lance, how does, just out of curiosity, how does Stanton Braves Field distance wise compare to the other parks within the league?
it varies on there are certain fields that are like Woodstock has a shorter right field fence than a left field fence. And our center field fence is probably the shortest in the league.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a home field advantage. We definitely have a home field advantage instead. Left field at Gypsy Hill is balls go to die for. You really got to get it out of there to get it over that fence. But center and right field is a bandbox. And I would love to back it up, but the trees are there.
Isn't the other side of it though that we don't have a warning track before you get to the wall?
We don't.
So is that a
safety
factor?
It could be done. It's not very hard to get it done.
If you rebuild this wall, would you build it with banners that are removable? Or
I am in the position of doing. I don't know, last time you've been out to the field, but all our new banners are removable banners. Because my intention originally was to do chain link all the way around. I just don't, aesthetically, I just think that takes something away from it. And so I started to replace the old aluminum banners with the gamuts in it and different material that you could take them on and off, easier.
Right.
I will say some of that aluminum is probably holding parts of that fence up in some areas. But that's the plan. That's the plan is to replace every billboard and make it that material.
Well, we're well aware of what a great league you have there, and we want to keep the league there. We also want to keep Mary Baldwin happy. We also know that Stanton High School is using the field.
Yep.
So it's a well-used field, and unfortunately is not in the best shape.
It's not.
And I'm particularly talking about right field, the way it drops off. And I think I talked to Chris Tuttle this week, and we are aware of the fact that we have a good baseball program here in Stanton, and we're going to have to invest in it. So anything you do, we appreciate, and we got your back.
I appreciate
We're with
that.
you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my understanding from speaking with Mr. Tuttle as well. They're not looking at taking the trees down because it covers up one of the public works buildings, the horticultural building. That's my understanding.
Fence screening isn't that expensive.
Well,
They still make trees.
well, that's a conversation for the future.
I know.
Now, a point of clarification, it'll just be beer sales. It will not be wine or liquor.
Well, my purpose is beer.
Okay,
I think the event license is beer wine.
okay.
I think they wrap those two up.
Mhm,
I
okay.
do not want any glass nowhere near the stadium.
Right, okay.
So it'll be all can or draft if we have that.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
Don't say they put wine in cans now that's not
Correct.
rock cut.
Or plastic,
Right.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Public hearing is now open concerning this matter. If you'd like to speak from the audience, feel free to come forward. Mr. Kessiker, does anyone have their hand raised?
No, ma'am.
All right, one last chance. Anyone from the audience? Yeah. Hi, welcome.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Edwards, 112 Bell Creek Drive, and I'm excited to find out that there will be a beer garden at the Brave Stadium. I have gone a handful of times with my husband, and I think if there were, I would go more frequently, but I would like to make the suggestion to Mr. Mock that we use some of the local breweries in town and serve that for the games. I think that would really add to the local economy, but also kind of have variety for beer. Thank you.
that's the plan.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. All right, anyone with their hands raised?
No, ma'am.
All right. The public hearing is now closed. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor. Go ahead.
All right, Councilor Claffey.
I move that City Council adopt the ordinance authorizing approval of the lease agreement between the City of Stanton and Stanton Baseball, Inc. for the limited use of the baseball field and operation of concession rights beginning May 15th, 2021, and further authorizing the city manager be authorized to execute the lease agreement with such modifications and in final form is approved by the city attorney.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Madam Mayor,
Vice Mayor Robertson.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any further discussion?
Funny thing is, I would never want to cut down any of those trees. I mean, I know that it's America's pastime, but those trees were all planted in the past, and they're real important as far as the park goes.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Kessiker, please call the roll.
Ms. Darby,
Aye.
Mayor Oakes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Miss Mead,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Mr. Claffey,
Aye.
Ms. Dahl.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. We are now done with the public hearings. It takes us to item F, a discussion and consideration of substantial amendment to FY 2019 Annual Action Plan to reallocate CDBG CV funds awarded under the CARES Act. Ms. Beauregard,
Mr. Billy Vaughn is here this evening for this item.
welcome.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. This item is a simple reallocation of HUD funding. In 2020, in response to the pandemic, the city received CARES Act funding through our HUD entitlement program, CDBG program. Those funds were distributed to 5 local nonprofit organizations. Last month, keeping in mind this was 2 years ago, but last month, one of those subrecipients requested that their funds, a portion of their unused funds, be reallocated to other non-profit agencies that are already in our program. With that request on the table, we reached out to all the nonprofits that in the past have received or requested CDBG funds. We received 2 requests. And so what I'll share with you, what is part of the request for substantial amendment to the FY19 program. The first part is to reduce the health, education, and services portion. This action is, of course, in response to the Central Shenandoah Health District request to return $43,231.95 in CDBG funding. Part of those funds will be used by the Valley Mission in their increase in shelter operations. They will receive, if this amendment is approved, $35,240.28. These funds will be used to increase their operations in their shelter and to assist those that are being served in that facility. The other remaining $7,991.67. I guess I'm channeling Mr. Trader. Those numbers.
Got to read them faster.
Yeah, I cannot do that. I would have said about $8,000. Those funds would go to Valley Program for Valley Program for Aging Services to purchase and distribute testing kits. Now, of course, we had to meet HUD regulations, and so we did properly advertise for the public hearing, which was held this afternoon at 2 p.m. right here in this location. And it was also placed on the city website. We did have wonderful attendance today. We had all of 2 people show up. But Councilman Meade was there. She was
no
there.
shade.
She was there. But in reality, the key is to get the word out to those agencies that are using the funds, and then they can reach out to their clients and customers to address those needs. So really didn't expect a large attendance, but I do thank you for showing up today with your tough questions. So if council approves the substantial amendment tonight, we would also ask that the interim city manager be given the authority to sign any agreements and any associated documents, which would allow the reallocation of those funds to those 2 organizations.
Right.
I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions by council members? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor Oakes,
Councilor Dole.
I move the city council approve the substantial amendment to the FY 2019 annual action plan for CARES Act CDBG CV funds in response to the COVID-19 emergency, and authorize the interim city manager to sign appropriate forms, including sub-recipient agreements with the agencies slated to receive HUD CDBG funds.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Mayor Oakes,
Councilor Darby.
I second that.
All right, there's a second. Any further discussion? I would just like to say the redistribution of these funds, this is neighbor helping neighbor. So I will be supporting this measure. Mr. Kessicker, please call the roll.
Mayor Oakes,
Aye.
Ms. Meade,
Aye.
Mr. Holmes,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Robertson,
Aye.
Ms. Dull,
Aye.
Ms. Darby,
Aye.
Mr. Claffey.
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. That takes us to item G, a discussion of uses of American Rescue Plan Act funds. Ms. Beauregard.
I know what y'all are thinking. We saved the best for last. So
The star of the show.
we're gonna ramp this up here. So Mr. Trayer and I are gonna tag team on this. I'm gonna talk about the survey results. If you recall, we did a community survey. It's been about 4 months, so I apologize for just coming to this with this now. But as I was thinking about it, I think this is a really good gut check on possible uses for the ARPA funds. Mr. Trayer's going to go over kind of the logistics of ARPA funds again, what we've discussed, some of the items we've discussed before, and then I'll talk about the survey, and then we'll go back into some specific ideas that we've broached with council in the past. And the bottom line is we need to start spending this money. We should start getting some money out there, because then we can do a survey again to see if there's an impact being made. And this is the first time we've done a survey like this. So I'm going to walk through it the best I can. I'm probably going to have more questions than you do than answers, but I think we're going to be able to dig deeper into this as we go along through the ARPA funds the next couple of years and when we do a second survey. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trayer, and then we'll know when to switch. So,
Hey, Mr. Trayer, there's been some folks that have been picking on you. You have the microphone. It's payback.
Madam Mayor, members of council, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Tonight, we're here to provide you with additional expenditure options and updates concerning the guidance of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. At our last ARPA presentation, we reviewed capital-related requests and committed to come back before you with community support-related items, which will occur this evening. Since the presentation, the U.S. Treasury Department has updated their guidance and has finalized the rules for the act. We are now operating under what is considered to be the final rule. That said, interpretations from Treasury continue to evolve. On slide 2, we review an outline of what has occurred to date. Most of this is a review. We'll start with the major elements. As you're aware, the city of Stanton is slated to receive allocations of 4.8 and 8.1 million for both county and city funding. As you're aware, Stanton qualified for county funding as the U.S. Census counted the city of Stanton within the county of Augusta for the allocation, and because local population counts are factored into the funding equation, the dollars received under county funding ensures the city receives an appropriate allocation of ARPA funds. Last May 25th, we received our first allocation, $2.4 and $4.1 million respectively for county and city. Last week, we submitted the required confirmations in order to receive our second allotment. We expect to receive this money by the end of the month. As I'm sure you're aware that per Treasury guidance, expenditures are to be encumbered by December 31st, 2024 and spent by December 31st, 2026. All localities are now operating under the final rule, which was issued in January with an effective date of April 1st. So we're about 6 weeks into the final rule. Given the expanded timeline, staff deliberately slowed down the process to wait for the interim final rules to be stabilized by Treasury, which allowed us to have a more certain of our recommendations. This was lessons learned by the CARES Act funding, which seemed to change by the month. Slide 3 is a review of what's already been reported. 5 major categories: support for the public health and economic impacts, premium pay for essential workers, payroll expenses for public safety, for public health and safety employees, replacement of loss of revenue for local governments, water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Eligible items within these categories have changed somewhat since our last review, but we are planning on focusing our expenditure plan on item D, loss of revenue, as this allows for the most spending flexibility with the least amount of governing regulations and reporting requirements. Slide 4 addresses the loss of revenue claim category. ARPA allows for localities to recapture general revenues lost as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. General revenues include taxes, current charges, miscellaneous general revenue, intergovernment transfers between state and local governments, utilities, including water, which is new, and parking. Federal revenue and proceeds from the issuance of debt are expressly prohibited. The loss of revenue calculated by a formula provided by the U.S. Treasury Department. It measures actual revenue versus potential revenue. Under this formula, the greater loss of revenue percentage above the base year, or 5.2%, is to be used. Under this calculation, the city is estimated to be able to capture all of its allotment by the 2022 calculation. There's estimates of 70% of the localities nationwide are going to be in this same position to capture 100% of the allotment under loss of revenue. Under the final rule, localities are allowed to perform this calculation at the end of either a fiscal year or a calendar year. The calculation must be consistent throughout the process. Stanton has chosen the fiscal year basis, which allows for audited financials to be used without prorations. Calculation dates for Stanton will be June 30th, 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, and 24. These calculations stand on their own and are not cumulative. In addition, Brown Edwards has indicated these funds can be used to support our 22, 23, and 24 budgets, and they have concurred with our interpretation of rule applications. Finally, our auditors have also indicated the city can use loss of revenue funds to support our current projects on the CIP plan. Another major rule change is localities can choose a $10 million no calculation provision for the use of loss of revenue funding. Under this option, the city was required to make a one-time election no later than April 30th, 2022. City of Stanton elected to proceed with the calculation method. Based on FY 2020 and 2021 fiscal year calculations, we've been able to capture 10.8 million or 83% of the expected allocation. FY 22's calculation is expected to capture the remaining amount. Slide 6, loss of revenue can be used for services or projects up to the amount of the calculated revenue loss, be it the $10 million allowance or the calculated amount. Government services generally include any service traditionally provided by the government. Examples specifically provided by Treasury include construction for schools and hospitals, road building, maintenance and infrastructure expenditures, health services, general government administration, staff and administrative facilities, environmental remediation, provisions for police, fire, and public safety services, including the purchase of fire trucks and police vehicles. Projects such as water, sewer, and stormwater can also be used under the loss of revenue method up to the amount of the loss of revenue. Again, this lowers the bar for compliance and reporting. Big advantage in that. And with that, I will step aside from this.
So I'm going to walk everybody through the survey, and I know the reports were really daunting. They were 100 pages each. So Polko actually helped put this together for me. So they were very gracious to do that. So if you recall, we did resident and business surveys late in 2021, November through December. This is just information about Polko. So if you recall, last year we purchased this platform to help with surveys, and we've done this survey. We'll do an employee engagement survey this year. We use them for shop and dine out in downtown, and so you can do micro surveys plus the big benchmark surveys, and this is a benchmark survey. So far they've proven to be very useful. I think this is going to be a great tool for us to have going forward. So it's a little bit about Polko. So we all know that COVID-19 impacted every aspect of our livability in our society. And even though it kind of feels like we're being lifted out of it, there's a lot of impacts from that still happening right now. So the Treasury urged local governments to develop plans. Given the scale of funding, we're never going to get $13 million again to the city of Stanton. So to use these funds kind of in a broader way to help build that economic recovery. And so that's what the survey tries to kind of capture, is what that means. And it's not going to tell you what to do. It's just going to provide some guidance on how people feel about things in the community. So as I mentioned, we did a resident survey and a business survey, and we looked at key indicators. There's also benchmark. We're basically benchmarked against every jurisdiction that does these surveys. So it's like 500 jurisdictions. And you'll see a slide in a minute that talks about that a little bit more as well. So this wheel represents the different areas that are being measured in the survey called community livability. And I know that might be hard to read, but it's, for example, it's mobility, parks and recreation, inclusivity and engagement. So these are the domains of community livability. And the survey asked resident and business owners their perspectives on 3 things: community livability, the challenges they're facing, and spending priorities. So this is not our survey, but these are sample questions or topics for each of those sections. So you have community livability, and they rank it from excellent to poor. And they're looking at, for instance, overall economic health, quality of utilities, health and wellness. Under personal impact, is it a major impact or no impact? For instance, how are you dealing with making rent or mortgage payments? Do you have technology for school or work? Under business impact, you have major impact to none. For instance, decline in business sales, need to lay off employees, and then priorities goes from essential to not important and includes providing economic aids to households and providing aid to small businesses, for instance. So that's just a sampling of what the survey is asking. For our particular survey, both surveys ran from early November to the end of the calendar year. The residential survey sent postcards to 4,000 households in the city limits. So it was only city addresses. Outreach included media releases, Facebook posts, website. We discussed this at the council meetings, and we provided printed surveys as well. 366 were completed. It's statistically weighted survey, and it was made available in English and Spanish. As far as the business survey, it ran during the same period. We sent postcards to 868 businesses, similar outreach, 90 were completed. And I asked Polko how these responses rated compared to other like jurisdictions, and they said these were very good, actually, especially the first time that we've done this. I also thought I'd mention that in terms of, so every time somebody goes into Polko, they can subscribe to Polko, and so we've gotten more members. Actually, our membership is higher than other like jurisdictions. So to me, it started out really well, and I know Ms. Bixler's really enjoyed the tool as well. We've enjoyed playing with it, so it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of uses that we're discovering. So that's all good news. So we got good response rates. And so far that was, we've done better than our other like jurisdictions.
Ms. Beauregard, can I
Yes.
interrupt you for just a
Sure.
second with a question? How was the decision made to send 4,000 postcards to residents and 868 to businesses?
I'm trying to remember. I think that was just within the contract we had with them in terms of the number that were sent. I can get more clarity on the answer. I'm sorry, I don't have that direct answer, but I think it had to do everything with the contract that we had with them in terms of dictating the number of that. But I can get some clarity on that as well.
Okay.
So.
Did they use zip codes or?
Well, zip codes, yeah,
Websites.
the zip codes cross city lines. So they used, I don't know the word. Do you know? Yes, thank you. They mapped them so that since the zip codes cross city over into the county, they made sure that they weren't capturing those addresses that were crossing the city line.
Where it went to all parts of the city or?
Yeah, pretty well. And actually I can send you a map. It looked fairly representative. And I'm happy to send a map out to each of you so you can see. I think you can dig in and actually see the numbers for each geographical area of the city. So it looked to me, if I remember, it looked fairly representative of all parts of the city. Yep. But I'll get more information on the numbers. Yep. So this is what I was talking about with the national benchmark. So you see these little icons throughout the whole survey, the arrows, the double arrows, the single arrows. So as I mentioned, there's more than 500 communities across the nation representing 50 million residents. So that's who we're benchmarked against. Trends over time, we do not have trends yet. We will as we continue to do the survey. So you won't see trends in the report yet, but that will come over time. So the surveys looked at both the quality and importance. Remember that wheel I showed you with the community livability? So it represents, so people responded to how they felt about the quality of that and the importance. So for the resident and business, here is how people felt, the quality ratings. So you can see at the top, Parks and Rec ranked excellent or good for both residents and business in the high 80s, as did safety. Natural environment, as you go down the list, it gets lower, the lowest two being utilities and economy. So that's how people feel about the quality of those livability issues. In terms of how important it is, again, you see economy is at the top. So people feel like the economy is very important. So it's a little bit reversed. If you went back a slide, you could see that those are reversed. So they got the lowest quality rating, but the highest important. And you'll see in a minute how that gets drawn out as a critical issue area. Following inclusivity, and then you go down the line from there. So livability, so as I just mentioned, livability domains that score higher in importance and lower in quality are identified as potential areas of opportunity. So this is where we can start, the ARPA funds kind of come in. So I'm sorry, this chart might be difficult. So you see in the top left quadrants, for instance, you have higher importance, lower quality. And then you see the areas that are higher importance, higher quality, such as education, arts, culture. You have many on the line right there. And actually, I think this chart is better. So here are the critical areas based on resident perspectives. So utilities and economy have the biggest spread between quality and importance. So those are the two critical focus areas. And I actually asked them, because you'll see later in the slides about how people feel about being heard. So I would almost add inclusivity to this as well. And they said that was right on the edge. So they didn't disagree with me on that necessarily, because you'll see inclusivity show up under the business survey. And it's not much of a spread between quality of importance for either the resident or the business. So these, yes, sir.
I'm just curious, with economy utilities having the lowest rating, could that be due to the time the survey was taken because of COVID?
Thank you. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I was talking to somebody about that earlier. So this was taken when we were all still masking. We all still had a lot of restrictions in place. So that could well be the timing of the survey, since it was done at the end of 2021. So it'll be interesting to see once we start putting some ARPA money out there and then we redo the survey, what the reaction is. So I was thinking about that too, that some of this could have to do with the timing of that. Yep. Yes, sir.
How would COVID affect utilities, people's perceptions of utilities?
Oh,
that's a good question too.
Well,
I mean,
but wouldn't it be, I mean, there was a lot of people, some of them out of work, whatever, they didn't have the money for utilities.
Well, but there was also at that time relief. They weren't
Yeah,
paying it.
agreed.
So I don't quite get the COVID connection to utilities.
yeah, I can see a stronger connection with economy for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
If I may, I'm happy, I don't have those in front of me, but I have the questions for utilities and I can pull those and share that with you all, because I think that'll help tell some of that story. Yeah, and this is why tonight is just an introduction to this. So I love these questions that we can dig a little further into this as we go along. So this is the business quality importance chart, but let me just get to the next slide. So here they identified 4 critical focus topics. You also see economy and utilities, but you also have inclusivity, which I said I think could go on the residential side as well. And then mobility showed up, which is transportation, which is, you know, that's what that is literally. And so those 4 critical focus areas showed up under the business, as far as the business perspective. So then we have a section, so then there's a section called community challenges. And this is the challenges they reported facing in the past 12 months. And again, these are other areas that could have potential intervention with the use of ARPA funds. So under household challenges, the biggest challenges that were identified is feeling like your voice is heard in the community, and 46% found this problematic. 46% said lack of a quality public school system is problematic, and 42% lack of affordable quality childcare is problematic. And those were the household challenges seen as the biggest challenges. As far as the business challenges, 63%, this is no surprise, shortage of skilled workers, no surprise there. A decline in business sales. I think I'd be interested to see how that would change over time though. And then employees getting burned out due to increased workloads. And I think all these make perfect sense to me. So, and I know Mr. Holmes is a business owner. I'm sure you can definitely relate to each of these, so. And again, these are just providing some guidance to you all as we start making these decisions about ARPA, especially kind of on the community side of that, community side of the issues in terms of how do we put the money out in the community. In terms of COVID-19 impacts on businesses, about 1/4 reported they were laying off employees. 77% reported revenues lower than projected for 2020. About 4 out of 10 are back on pre-COVID levels or doing better than before, so that's good. And then 2 in 5 businesses reported it will take 6 months plus months to return to pre-COVID level. And this again was all reported as part of the survey. I think this next chart is really interesting because I think it's no surprise that low-income communities, communities of color were experienced higher rates of COVID infection, unemployment, lack of food, educational challenges. The pandemic impacts were not equally shared. And so there is a part in here that talks about disparities. And this was just in the residential survey because business owners may or may not live in the city. So this is in the residential side. So this pink chart, and I don't know what ABC is. I think that's supposed to say Stanton. Talks about each of the ARPA challenge areas. And then based on the income level reported, the location where they lived, the individual lived, what they reported as their race and whether they rent or own a home, you see that the ARPA challenge, either there was a large disparity or a no disparity, and then a small disparity. So for instance, under employment challenges, all the areas, there were large disparities between them. Interestingly, for instance, under rent or own your home, if you look at food security challenges, that was a smaller disparity reported. This chart is very complicated. I can actually dig into this chart on the website and get into more details. I think this would be an excellent piece of information for the Equity and Diversity Commission to look more into. I mean, this is a great piece of data for them to really study, and we can help them walk through this. It's very interesting. It's very complicated though. So I think having the commission kind of look at this initially and so that they can understand it and we can all understand it better, what it means and how to address some of these issues would be very helpful. Yes, sir.
I reckon I'm confused on the one that says the community disparities.
Right.
People of low income, people of color experienced higher rates, COVID infection, hospitalization, death.
Generally, correct.
Generally. Then we get over here and it talks about health challenges.
I saw that
income
too.
level, no disparity, race, no disparity.
I saw that too, Mr. Robertson, and I was surprised by that, frankly, but that's how the people who responded to the survey responded.
Okay.
And again, I agree. I think that is a very interesting data point because it doesn't really fit with the experience that we've heard has been happening and that these communities have experienced during COVID that we know they've experienced. So the fact that it showed up as no disparity for race in particular, I think is very interesting. So again, I think it's a good opportunity. This is a really good chart to dig into more and try to understand better as we move through the ARPA funds. And certainly it has a lot of uses outside of that too, I think. But I saw that too, Mr. Robertson, and that was interesting to me as well. Yeah. In terms of self-reported knowledge of ARPA, I thought this was pretty good. 45% of residents were informed about the American Rescue Plan Act funds and 52% of businesses were informed or very or somewhat informed. So in terms of funding priorities, helping to understanding what priorities of stakeholders, AKA our community, can help, identify what opportunities are out there. And it's not like you have to touch every single opportunity, but this could be a guide for some of the dollars from ARPA that we're receiving. So in terms of for residents, ARPA funding priorities include the most important funding categories: economic aid to households who are experiencing housing, food, or other financial hardships. I think affordable housing fits really well here. I know we've talked about that before. Financial aid to high poverty school districts. And then finally, services to address behavioral health care needs increased by the pandemic, such as mental health treatment. And we all know that that is a critical issue as well. So, and I'll just mention that I have been talking to Dan Lehman of the Community Foundation and Anna Levitt of CAPSAW to try to gather information on these issues. And there's three in particular that Mr. Lehman and I have talked about: is affordable housing, childcare, and mental health. And we have been working on this for a while, but we're trying to wrap it up in a nice picture for you all so that we can actually make some recommendations to you and have you commit, look at committing some funds in those areas. So I think that will address a lot of the issues that were on the previous slide.
Did you find the same to be true when you spoke with Anna Levitt?
Yeah, I think the three of us met together at one point about that. And so my plan after this is to have another get together with the two of them and kind of try to wrap some of these issues up. And Mr. Lehman's been very helpful, and Ms. Levitt has offered her assistance as well wherever it's needed. So, yeah.
Ms. Beauregard, I'm surprised that transportation's not one, not that there aren't four issues, because while we have transportation, it can take say a single mom with young children, it can take her 4 hours to get, from home, to get the kids to childcare, to get to her job, or, if she's trying to go get training at Blue Ridge Community College, it can take just hours to do that. And then she can't stay long because then she has to go back and get the kids. And so, we could look at things like funding transportation to have more frequent routes so that you don't have to get up at 5 in the morning or whatever, get the kids ready and take all that time to get to a school or get to childcare or get to a medical appointment or whatever. So
Those are all great points. And that early on, Mr. Lehman and I had talked about some transportation issues. One of them was around a program in Harrisonburg, I think, or maybe Charlottesville, where they actually are able to purchase cars for people that need cars.
And there's somebody rehab, people can donate cars and they
Yes.
rehab them and then
Give them or
supply
sell them or
to-
supply
yeah,
them, right?
yeah.
And so we had looked at, so I can circle back around with him on that as well. And that was an early conversation we had last year.
I mean, I don't
So,
disagree with the other three.
no,
but
yeah, no, I hear
I
what
know,
you're, yeah, I wrote
yeah.
that down. I think that, and mobility came up as a critical focus area, pretty close under the resident survey. It was
Yeah.
still pretty high up, I thought.
Yeah, it was
So,
right.
yeah, it was right in the
74%.
middle, right? So, so just as far as the ARPA funding priorities for businesses, the top 3 are economic aid and assistance to small business and nonprofits. Expanding childcare, this is one that keeps coming up over and over again. And then investments in water and sewer system were rated as important.
Water and sewer system, you think be because of the flood? It have much of an impact.
Yeah, and that's a great question, possibly. Even though it was over a year since the floods, I think people, obviously it's on their minds a lot. And we've been talking about it quite a bit since that time.
Every time we
Every
have a
time it
storm.
rains, I
Yep.
know. So, yeah, and we've continued to talk about, and you'll see on a chart that we've have some items in there to maybe help address that. So in summary, critical focus issues or critical focus areas, economy, utilities, mobility, inclusion. Biggest challenges for household is having your voice be heard, public school system, and lack of quality childcare. And then businesses are struggling with having skilled employees, declining sales, and burned out employees. So as far as the survey goes, investments receiving the highest level of support include economic aid to households, financial aid to school districts, services to address behavioral health care needs, and economic aid to small business and nonprofits. And moving forward, you all have asked some great questions this evening, and we'll continue to dig into these results. The next step also is to kind of develop some strategies to best address the community needs, and then to measure our progress. We'll do another survey like this once we start spending some of the dollars. So thinking probably no earlier than early 2023, or sometime in 2023, when we'll do the next survey just like this. So you don't have to answer these questions. You can if you want to. Some of this I think has already been expressed. What findings did you expect? What was surprising? Focusing on some areas. And then I've already taken some notes about some areas that you all would like to see us dig a little bit deeper. So.
Right now, we don't even have a viable cab service or Uber, so it's really hard for even people to fall back on that. So I think, and there was an article in the paper about how popular the Afton Express has been. They've been really, it's been pretty full every time it goes over the mountain.
Yeah, I think they're going to be adding even more routes.
That's a lot of older people going over to the hospital to be checked out,
So happy to answer any questions or take any more input or feedback, but we'll continue to work on this.
So you said there'll be a second survey in 2023?
I think that's the earliest we might do it.
Okay.
I think we should definitely focus on spending some of the ARPA money down to see if any impacts are made.
Yeah.
And then we take another survey and see if people's feelings change, if some of
Right.
this data changes.
It'll be
And that seems to make
interesting.
sense. It'll be interesting to see the comparison. And then after that, we're going to continue to do just a kind of a broad community survey every other year, probably. That is at least what we would suggest we do. Not necessarily focused on ARPA, but that survey looks very much like the ARPA survey in many aspects, but it's more broadly about community and city services. So, but we'll do one more ARPA survey for sure.
I had one more question. In the summary, it refers to financial aid to high poverty school districts.
Yeah, I
I'm
think,
like, well, we only have one.
yeah, I think that was just the way the question was worded.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think, I think it's interesting that it still came out, although I would not consider that to be our school system.
There's something in there, but it's
Yeah, I can,
not that.
I can look at that a little bit
Yeah.
deeper and kind of send some more information to you all about that, so.
And I just wanted to add that, for instance, the ARPA funding priorities for businesses, that sample was 90 businesses, I think you said.
Yeah, 89.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so 73% of 90 businesses, 65. And if you go down to the lowest priority, 60, wait a minute, I could put my glasses on. 64% is 57 businesses. So, you know, percentages can be useful if you have a large enough data sample. But I think if you start putting too much emphasis on percentages and not look at actual numbers of responses, I think it's important to note that. I don't want to over rely on percentages.
Ms. Beauregard, I've got another thing that, I know we talked about it some time ago, but on here, ARPA request, and it talks about city council request, discount facility and connection utility fees and affordable dwelling units. One of the main things that I would like to suggest, I don't know how the rest of the city council goes, but I know we talked about Uniontown, that they have not had connection fees or have not had good sewer hookups, water hookups forever in that area. And I think it is the least we could do as a community. And so I'd like to make a suggestion we look into when we actually get that done and when we upgrade sewer and water fees, that we make those free for those people, that they should not have to pay for those fees. That's just my suggestion. I don't know what the rest of the council feels like, but I think that's the least we could do for, I mean, that area has not had, you know, good sewer and water hookups since it's been there.
Well, we're in a little bit, we're actually going to talk about Uniontown, and Mr. Rhodes is here to have a discussion about something that will be requested, a small area plan for Uniontown.
Okay.
So he'll have more information on that. And
Okay.
so this is my last slide. So I just wanted to review the community needs requests again that we've received. And one was from Augusta Regional Dental for service expansion. These are all one-time requests, by the way, I've been told. Valley Community Services Board is asking for $120,000 for community coaching and engagement program. And Augusta Health Foundation. This one is more regional, and I actually emailed them to find out where they were at in terms of their request from Waynesboro and Augusta County. I did not hear back yet. The total project's about $57,000. So the city's share, according to the folks who requested this, is about $19,000. You know, I'm happy to send more information on each of these. We need to evaluate these a little bit more going forward. I mentioned before discussions with Community Foundation on childcare, affordable housing, and mental health. And then under affordable housing also, that kind of aligns with the council request for home repairs for low-income households. And when Mr. Lehman and I have met, we've talked a lot about how to keep folks in their homes, especially homes that need repair, that aren't safe. So how do we, you know, put that, he's saying that's a very important aspect of this, keeping people in their homes right now. And so that could be part of that as well. And then Mr. Robertson, you just brought out the facility fees that has also been a suggestion from council members.
Ms. Beauregard,
Yes.
what is a fatality management trailer?
Oh, I knew you were going to
It's
ask
from-
that.
It's like from COVID.
It has to be, yeah, I have it.
Is it
Should be
body,
like a-
a body? Is it a refrigerated?
I think that's
I
what
think it is.
Augusta had
Okay.
asked for that.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I knew what we were talking about.
Carolyn, I think that was at the height of the pandemic when they didn't have.
It was.
Yeah.
They call it a mobile morgue trailer.
Okay.
But that's precisely, yeah. So that's precisely what it is. And I actually, again, I asked them if this was still a need, and I just hadn't heard back from them yet. So I was getting clarification, trying to get clarification before this evening, but I just wanted to have it up on the slide so you all knew that it was out there. So. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna let Mr. Trayer continue now, if that's okay.
Okay. On slide 40, we review a listing of potential capital-related projects council can consider. Most of these are familiar as we discuss all of them at some point during the 2023 budget process. We start off with the emergency radio project for $2 million. This is an item that seemed to have support from the majority of the council members at our last ARPA meeting. The project has a budget of $4 million, and through year-end fund balance appropriations, we currently have half of this amount reserved within our CIP. The project appears in our approved CIP with funding sources of $2 million from ARPA and $2 million from fund balance appropriations. We have received our RFPs back from responding vendors already, and we hope to be in a position to award this contract within the coming weeks. Given that, and with permission, we ask to include a $2 million ARPA provision on budget amendment number 4, which is scheduled to be introduced on May 28th, your next meeting. Next is a provision of $2 million to support school construction. We currently have a $2.5 million provision residing in the CIP for future school construction. This was funded via FY 2021 year-end carryover fund balance appropriations approved by council in January. In addition, the schools have committed $2.7 million in ESSER 3 funds towards this project. And have roughly $4 million in fund balance. A portion of this fund balance will need to go towards Valley Tech CIP projects. I can assure you, you'll be hearing a lot more of that in the very near future.
Mr. Trayer, just for clarity, that project is the storage.
Storage in Shelburne CTE school renovations.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And we haven't had an update in quite some time, and it's not for tonight. But what is the current status of the joint committee between city council and the schools regarding the location of that facility?
I think that's a little bit up in the air as they're trying to negotiate with a couple of different properties to try to get the best deal for the city and the long-term planning. I will say recent developments with the Valley Tech CIP may drive council in a new direction, but that'll come forth to you in the coming days or weeks in the very near future. So.
Okay.
The committee hasn't met since last fall when they started negotiations with the property.
So we're not part of that conversation. We don't have any committee representation in that.
Not as far as them negotiating on a property, no.
Okay.
Next, we have 3 project-related, the total estimated cost of the warehouse Shelburne CTE classroom project at this point is estimated to be $10 million. The next 3.
And that $10 million is to store food and to work on vehicles. Is that?
Well, it's a school warehouse and there's a CTE classroom component transition. So they'll be moving their current maintenance facility out of Shelburne Middle.
Yep.
And they'll be transforming that space into CTE classrooms.
So it's including doing the basement of Shelburne.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get clarity on that. Does it include building an addition onto Shelburne as well? Because they were talking about doing that.
I don't know that the $10 million is going to be able to include that. They'll certainly have design for that. But given where the project's at right now, I think $10 million is going to be all that they can do to get the CTE classrooms completed. Yep, okay. Let's see, next three projects, park related, start off with the $250,000 provision for practice field lights at Montgomery Hall Park. We have a $750,000 provision for pool house renovations at Gypsy Hill Park and a $700,000 provision for renovations at the Gypsy Hill for the Gypsy Hill Park bathrooms. This would supplement $350,000 already appropriated. I'm told that the total cost of that project should be well south of that. So any excess will come back before council for guidance. From there, we have fire apparatus. Originally, the fire chief had asked for a total of 4 units, $3.1 million, consists of 2 pumpers at $725,000 each and 2 heavy rescue apparatuses for $825,000 each. We have the flood shields. These shields are lighter, easier to handle. Mr. Glover is very high on these. He's also very high on tunnel repair design for downtown flood control. This would not fix the tunnel problems, which they are in any regard in need of maintenance, but it will help assess the damage and to design a fix for those tunnels. We have a Uniontown comprehensive plan and small area study for $75,000. We'll talk more about this in a moment. Water infrastructure, $3 million. This project is currently scheduled in the CIP in the amount of $5.2 million and is contingent upon $2.3 million in state grant awards. This is for the eastern sector of the city. Likewise, we have sewer infrastructure of 1.3. This project is currently scheduled in the CIP in the amount of $5 million and is contingent upon $3.8 million in state grants. Mr. Bond is working feverishly on this. Refuse vehicle, $220,000. This would ease potential cash flow concerns within the environmental fund and ensure the local plan heavy equipment rotation is maintained. After that, we have the Gypsy Hill Stream Restoration, $1.3 million. This has been moved back from prior years. Currently, the project is listed in the CIP in FY 2024 with a to be determined funding source. We have pedestrian intersections, $850,000. I believe there's 10 potential safety improvement intersections as defined, as identified by the Virginia Department of Transportation. And finally, one that got kicked aside due to the pandemic is a Gypsy Hill Park pump house reconstruction at $250,000. Mr. Tuttle was on the phone with me earlier this week, making sure that we knew that that's something that still needs to be addressed.
Mr. Trayer.
Yes, ma'am.
The fire apparatus, the 2 heavy rescue and the 2 pumpers, so there's 4 things.
Yep.
Are they, because we always had a reserve for fire trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So is this in addition to that?
Well,
or were these on schedule? Are we buying ahead of time or what?
I think we would replace where we're a little bit behind on, and then maybe kind of move forward a bit. Right now, our reserve is still in a negative balance. We do plan on having the old ladder truck put on gov deals by the end of the month. And we anticipate being able to erase that negative balance.
Right.
But we are a little bit behind from where we should be.
But are we 4 vehicles?
No, 4 may be a little rich.
Because I know
but that's what was requested.
You know, that in the things that were declined, for example, there's 3 police vehicles.
Yeah.
And we're not getting any of them. We're going ahead on fire trucks?
Well, it's just something to consider.
These are just requests.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah.
recommending all of these or at this time.
Yeah.
We're just showing you information that these are just requests. So
Okay, but
and
I'm
we're gonna ask,
trying to get straight in my head.
Yeah.
You know, is this something we got to have now, or is this something they'd like to have for the future? you know,
I think Chief
versus
Garber
something
would.
we really need now.
Yeah, Chief Garber would love to have one, because I think that we have a couple vehicles that are in the 20-year range right now. So I think that 4 is a lot.
Yeah.
But 1 or 2 might be appropriate.
Yep.
Yep.
And Phil, did I hear correctly? Because I know Chief Garber talked about it a couple of years ago, it seemed like, but he is going, or y'all are going to put the old ladder, since you got the big new.
Absolutely.
You go put that on, try to get it sold?
Yeah, he had indicated the month of May, a couple of months ago, and
All
so
right.
we should have that on Gov Deals by the end of the month.
And you can go on Gov Deals and bid on it.
No,
Yes, you
thank you.
can. It can be in your driveway.
No, thank you.
Sure,
Bill, I have a question.
Great parked in front of your house.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to spend $1 million on redoing park bathrooms? Is that, I mean, that seems like a lot of money just for bathrooms.
One of them is going to have to be torn down and totally rebuilt, and then there's going to be some upgrades. And I am told that it should come in well south of that. So whatever's not spent, I mean, we're not going to be putting in gold sinks. So it's going to be durable, and it's going to be upgraded, and it's going to be wheelchair accessible and things like that. So.
That is one area that I've received a lot of complaints about. So,
yes.
Now,
glad
you
to see
saw
it.
what happened in Waynesboro and they
20,000.
destroyed the parks.
Yep. Okay, next on slide 41, we have a list of non-compensation items that were not funded during the FY23 budget process. As can be seen on this slide, we have $910,000 of items which were not included in the budget. We have bolded the items which we feel are important to bring to your attention, including the Stanton Crossing Marketing Plan, $76,000, and the West End Planning Study for $100,000. These 2 items have been discussed multiple times during the FY23 budget process. We have an inspection vehicle of $25,000, a replacement truck for streets for $50,000, a tractor and long arm for $200,000. This is used for grass cutting along the streets and will greatly assist the department's ability to maintain the roads during this period of labor shortages. Wharf tree replacement of $30,000. This project has been deferred multiple years, and we'd like to replace these trees as they're beginning to create unlevel sidewalks within the wharf area. And park maintenance has requested a boom mower for $17,500 and a robot vacuum for $6,500. And as an FYI, we are moving forward with the pickleball court repairs and using FY 2022 funds. And as far as the police vehicles, I anticipate being able to get those back purchased with year-end funds. So.
all right, Ms. Beauregard, the West End planning, I know it's on this list, but wasn't there some grant money?
I think we had said we could try to identify grant money possibly. I mean, but probably the quickest way to go about this is to just identify the ARPA funds and just have that money appropriated for that purpose.
Okay, I mean, grant money above and beyond the ARPA.
Oh, we haven't identified anything yet. I think we said we were going to look. We have been looking. I mean, so and actually, that's a good point, because there's a lot of money out there right now coming in from the federal government for all sorts of projects right now. So Mr. Trayer and I had talked a week or so ago about pulling a group of people together to make sure we're tracking all that, because there's just so much information right now. And so we still need to do that. So we're going to be paying a lot more attention to all the money coming in from the federal government for lots of different purposes, infrastructure, you name it. So there could be some opportunity there as well that we just haven't identified yet.
Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Trayer, what is a $6,500 robot vacuum? That must do a heck of a job.
I need that.
Yeah, I think that might be for the pool. And Mr. Tuttle is very high on this as well. He said it would save a lot of labor as well.
I just couldn't imagine what,
We'll get a picture of it.
it's not
Yeah.
a Roomba. It's-
No, no.
Something looks like a Roomba.
I was just checking.
The big Roomba that can go in the water.
I
So.
wanted to make
Don't
sure there wasn't any additional added funds added onto that thing.
So as Mr. Chair said, I think it'll help save on staffing time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is always good because it's difficult staffing is difficult right now. So.
Yeah,
And you could use it at both pools.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It could be installed at one pool.
I
and
know.
not
I
the
think
other
it's mobile that
as
they can
well.
take it out.
Yeah.
and
Right, thanks.
The one item that I think that is very coveted is that tractor and long arm for $200,000 because of the staffing shortages in the street department. So,
The long arm, is that the one with like a long side that goes out?
and yeah, kind of
You
goes
can-
up. and- Yeah.
Okay.
So, slide 42, at their February 2nd, 2022 work session, City Council expressed an interest in funding the extension of the water and sewer lines into the Union area, which is Jones Street, Patton Street, Anthony Street, and National Avenue. The city engaged the services of Wiley and Wilson to conduct a study. The preferred option is estimated to cost approximately $5.2 million. Staff has recommended that the city commission a comprehensive small area plan for the area in order to identify elements required to revitalize this area. This plan would establish goals and objectives for the community aligning with the city of Stanton's comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission did consider this on April 21st, 2022, and they voted 5-0 of approval of such a study, to proceed with such a study, and we have that in at $75,000.
I have a question about that. Is the installation of the water and sewer at Uniontown separate from the small area plan or the study? I mean, is one dependent on the other? Are you saying that we have to do the Uniontown small area plan before we commit to putting $5 million into water and sewer?
They are separate, but certainly they're intertwined. It is staff's recommendation that before you spend that kind of money, that you have a plan in place to make sure that you are going to get your desired outcome. I think the comment that the Vice Mayor made a few minutes ago about, connection fees, that is just one item. We also have a code requirement or policy requirement that if sewer goes along your property, you have to connect within 5 years. Are we going to require that as is currently in the code? Are we looking to revitalize the neighborhood or just provide water and sewer? I mean, what other infrastructure needs are there? The roads are not in great shape. Of course, the neighborhood has been divided for decades when the bridge was removed. Is that something that would be part of a small area study? There is just a multitude of things that I'm sure I'm not even thinking about that should be addressed up front before you put in the infrastructure.
I think that's a good plan. I do think having a plan would be a good idea. My concern is that these ARPA funds have to be committed by 2024 and spent by 2026. So if we took the time to do, a plan, which, it's a good idea, but if we took the time to do that, are we running up against meeting those deadlines and perhaps, not meeing the deadlines we have to have? We have to meet with ARPA funds.
Yeah, it's my understanding that funds through the ARPA have to be under contract by the end of 2024. So that's December 2024. So that gives us 2.5 years.
And how long does it take to do a small area?
If we can get one of our on-call consultants, this is a small project, so it would qualify for that. I'm hopeful that we could have a plan in place 6 to 9 months. Obviously, a big part of that would be getting meaningful citizen input into that plan.
Right, so that would involve public hearings or public comment opportunities?
I think way before any kind of public hearing, but we would certainly want public information meetings and where we could gather input from the public on what they want to see for the future of that area.
And when we say public, we're talking about specifically the folks who have either businesses or residences in Uniontown And I'm not even going to go into the question about what is Uniontown?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go there, but, I'm still concerned, candidly, if we spend 6 to 9 months doing the plan, which is a great idea, that we'll then have a short window of time to put the projects under contract and then only 2 years to finish. And I just don't know if maybe Mr. Johnson has an idea, maybe I'm under, over, whatever.
Come on back.
This is a significant project, and there's no way of getting around the fact that that is a very hard deadline. I will say that there are certain preliminary engineering functions that can happen that can happen alongside the small area plan. So we don't necessarily have to wait until that is done to get started. Yes, it is a concern. But at this point, knowing the deadline is out there, it certainly is doable, but that would require good coordination to keep those projects both moving, but still staying coordinated.
We have multiple major projects in the water and sewer area kind of backed up right now. And certainly we could interchange some of these if we had to. Last week, Mr. Johnson submitted an application into the state to try to get our Gardner Springs support project supported. I don't know how much we will be awarded or if we're going to be awarded, but we feel like it's going to score well. And we're one of the few localities that have something that's truly shovel ready. So if need be, we can work to interchange this pretty rapidly so that we don't lose out on funds.
So you're saying since Gardner Springs is quote shovel ready, that we might allocate ARPA funds to that and then take the funding that was to be used for Gardner Springs to
close.
do the unit that project?
No, we have debt capacity right now to pick up Gardner Springs without any additional rate increases in water. So if we get awarded the state funds, then that means we still have capacity for other things, such as a Uniontown project that we can put forth.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
What's to keep, if we do put water and sewer into Uniontown, isn't that going to raise the property values there, and it's going to make it harder for the residents that are there to stay there? And what's to keep business people from coming in and buying up all that land and develop it?
I think Ms. Dole raised that question a year and a half ago.
Yeah. I'm a little.
No, I didn't mean that. And no, but you're absolutely right. I mean, these are some of the risks that are there, but on the bright side, hopefully it will raise the values of their property and have properties that can be revitalized and used for their original purpose.
So you think there'd be funds that we could make available for these people? Because a lot of those homes probably are in the situation where they need a lot of here, like
with the final rule coming, they kind of casted a wider net on being able to use the funds for home repairs and affordable housing. So whereas before it was for homes that were disproportionately impacted, now it's kind of expanded to impacted homes as well. So it's a broader net. So, to answer your question is, I don't know what every homeowner's situation is, but my guess is we'd have greater latitude for that.
Terry, and that's what I was going after. I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, and Phil's probably going, don't do that. But I mean, with all, Uniontown, they've been without good running water, good sewer for all these years. We've taken care of other.
Against doing that. I just worry about it pushing those people out of their.
Well, I
homes.
agree, but I'd be after we get sewer and water there, then say, oh, by the way, if you're going to hook up to the sewer, you need to pay us $3,600 and then $2,500 for water. I just don't feel that's right. So
I don't either.
Yeah.
I think we should make it as unpainful as possible.
Right.
One more question, which doesn't have to do with Uniontown, but will ARPA funds be able to, we'd be able to use ARPA funds to take care of our negative balances or for this budget?
Negative contingency?
Through loss of revenues for general government services, absolutely.
Good.
Okay, and pushing on, slide 43, just a review, framework council informally agreed upon for the first half. The allotment includes an 80-20% split between capital related projects and community support projects. The monetary breakdown is $5.2 and $1.3 million respectively. Again, the city's scheduled to receive its second allotment by the end of this month. And we're also recommending council consider holding back a $2 million provision for one more year to allow additional needs to surface. You know, we do have some time to spare with this, and that might not be a bad idea. And then on slide 44, we're just looking for input from the council. So.
Right. Are there any questions, comments for Mr. Trayer or Ms. Beauregard?
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
And Mr.
absolutely.
Trayer can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the biggest piece of feedback he needs right now is, are you all comfortable with the recommendation to have 2 million of ARPA go towards the radio project, which will show up in the budget amendment that will be brought, as it will be introduced at the next meeting? So that's the first question, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because that's the emergency
Okay,
radio, right?
correct.
For police, fire.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so that,
Yeah.
all right, so the next question I have is, what would be helpful for you all? Would it be helpful for staff to take a shot at prioritizing some of these? We've heard from you kind of where we think the areas are that you feel the most strongly about. So just trying to understand when we'll come back to you to help validate some of these other requests, and would it be helpful for us to provide a little bit of prioritization on some of these? And I think we've heard some of the ones that I think surfaced to the top for each of you
Yeah.
as a group. So, and we could bring that back, you know, this summer and,
Yeah.
you know, in the meeting pretty soon.
Yeah, bring it
So,
back, then we can take a look at it and fine tune it, whenever.
does that sound acceptable to city council?
Does that
And you can
sound
send us
okay?
feedback in the meantime, and I can actually ask for that. I can send an email out and just say, provide some feedback to us based on what you heard so that we can be prepared. But in the meantime, Mr. Trayer will have that budget amendment ready with the $2 million in there. And then we can continue to talk about the other items and come to you back again. And I think we'll just maybe regularly do this so we can kind of get your input
That's what I
and
was
to
gonna
make sure, yeah. So this could just be the start of some regular updates on this, if that sounds acceptable.
And I don't have a problem with holding some back, you know, that, I don't know
I
if you
think
need
that's good.
that approval. I think we
Same
agreed to
here.
that initially, but I'm fine with continuing that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds great.
I agree.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. All right. The next item is matters from the interim city manager.
Okay, wait a minute. I gotta find my notes here.
Take your time.
I do have some things to talk about here. Oh, here we go. I do have a few things to mention this evening. One is the first is the Virginia Department of Health has awarded the city's water treatment plant another award for excellence in treatment plant operations for the 18th consecutive year.
Right.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson and his team for all the great work they do over there. They actually raised their criteria for the award and the staff was up to the challenge. And it recognizes day-to-day operations, not just the shiny stuff that we have over there. So I want to thank all the dedicated staff over there for making sure we have wonderful drinking water in this city. So congratulations to them. I also want to mention that on the 24th, there will be we're continuing, as we continue our efforts to implement a strategy for revitalizing Stanton's West End. There will be a community meeting to re-engage with the West End community regarding the status of the EPA Brownfields Grant Award and discussion on next steps for that. The meeting is on Tuesday, May 24th from 5:30 to 7 at the Gypsy Hill Park Gym located in Gypsy Hill Park. The city has engaged the engineering services of Draper Aid and Associates, who will facilitate this process. And all are welcome to come and learn more about the next steps and to participate in this. And city and staff will be available for questions. And so please join us in person, let folks know, and look for information on social media as well. The city has also won several awards in Virginia Living's Best of Virginia magazine. That's going to be highlighted online as well. For instance, historic site winner, first place for our historic downtown is being walkable and quote low key with great shopping. Several individual stores won recognition as well in various categories. The American Shakespeare Center received first place as a performing arts company in historic theater. And the Visual Light and Frontier Culture Museum also won awards in their categories. 15 of our restaurants won recognition in categories ranging from steakhouse to Mexican restaurant to vegan, vegetarian to seafood and wine, winning first, second, and third places in their respective categories. And then last but not least, we were recognized for our outdoor spaces like the Appalachian Trail and Skyline Drive, both winning first place for hiking and biking and for a park respectively. Stanton Jams is coming back May 28th, and it's a little bit different this year because I understand that it was on Beverly Street in the past, and now it's going to be in a few different areas around downtown, and there'll be all-day performances by great local bands. And then finally, the Virginia Association of Destination Marketing Organizations is having its strategic planning retreat at Hotel 24 South later this month. Cheryl Wagner is on the board and she'll be representing the city and is the immediate past president. So that's exciting to get a conference group in here to spend all that money in our downtown. So that's all great news. And that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds great. Councillor Holmes, was your restaurant on that list? Because every year.
It was on the list.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Steakhouse, seafood.
Yep.
Congratulations.
No, we just did, Mother's Day was our 30th year.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. All right, thank you. That takes us to matters from the public. This part of City Council's agenda is entitled Matters from the Public. It is a time that council sets aside to hear from citizens and others about a wide variety of subjects. A copy of the Stanton City Council's Matters from the Public rules are available in paper form at the clerk's desk and online on the City of Stanton's webpage. You are asked to familiarize yourself with these rules before commenting. Please come to the podium or begin your call, identify yourself, and complete your remarks within 5 minutes, and we'll alternate between the audience and Zoom. So with that, the Matters from the Public is now open if anyone would like to address the City Council. Hi, welcome.
Good evening again. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Sheila Mahdi, and I live in Stanton. I feel the importance to speak to the lack of conviction and commitment by City Council to establish an Equity and Diversity Commission in Stanton. The initial Equity and Diversity Citizen Survey was flawed at the outset. The questions were posed for a narrative response that discouraged many from completing it. There was inadequate information outreach and dissemination to garner a good representative sample from a broad range of citizens, and a lack of awareness by the community that an Equity and Diversity Commission was to be established in Stanton. Then followed an equity and diversity application process that was not, quote, just, impartial, and fair, unquote, as the city's equity and diversity application defined equity. Nor did it include diversity as defined also in the application, quote, the myriad ways in which people differ, including the psychological, physical, and social differences that occur among all individuals, such as race, ethnicity, nationality, socioeconomic status, religion, economic class, education, age, gender, sexual orientation, marital status, mental and physical ability, learning styles, unquote. When the composition of applicant demographics was questioned by your council member colleague with a request to meet in closed session to problem solve this, she was voted down. I respect and appreciate the ethical choice she made to inform the community on information that requires transparency. What followed was last week's council debacle with a call to disband the Equity and Diversity Commission. In the Equity and Diversity Survey I completed for the city on October 10, 2021, it was asked, what are the barriers to Stanton achieving equitable outcomes in our community? I responded, the will and the conviction to go the distance to make Stanton a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community where all citizens have the opportunity to live a quality life and contribute to it being a preferred city to live and progress. The cherry picking that occurred in the selection of commission members is not a representative sample of equity and diversity within the city, and it negates Stanton being this type of community. I laud a quote from James Baldwin, a brilliant African-American writer and scholar. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced.
Thank you. Mr. Kessler, does anyone have their hands raised?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Caller, you may begin.
Hi, my name's Allison Profeta. I live in Stanton. I find it abhorrent what some council members deem egregious. Egregious is defined as outrageously, shockingly bad. It is not outrageously, shockingly bad to work towards equity, to ensure the process of working towards equity is transparent and actually equitable. Nothing, absolutely nothing about the process of forming an equity commission should happen in the dark. Doing so only serves to throw a blanket of doubt over any attempt at demonstrating its formation is fair and/or impartial. And anyone who doesn't vehemently agree with that, I guess, isn't truly serious about being fair and/or impartial. Councilmember Mead asked, as she has in the past, for a closed-door meeting so that city council members could privately discuss concerns. In this case, concerns about the process of narrowing down applicants for the Equity Commission. You voted against that opportunity, so she spoke truth to power. She didn't reveal the names of any applicants. She may as well have, because many of us knew who our fellow applicants were. We knew who was being given a shot at an interview and who wasn't. But she maintained that privacy and spoke only in general terms about the types of applicants that were being given a chance and about the process through which they made it to the next level. Nothing about that is egregious. And I find it vomit-inducing that Vice Mayor Robertson latched onto that word with such glee. Egregious. And he managed to use it in exactly the same wrong way that it had just been wielded against us on a national level. Here's an example for you in an attempt to get you to understand. Insurrectionists who supported overthrowing a free and fair election, who showed up at Stop the Steal rallies and who stormed our nation's capital, find it egregious that people find their actions disgusting because they're attempting to deflect from the fact that their actions were and are egregious. Truth, honesty, transparency, allyship, those things aren't egregious. They never will be. And I very much question the morality of anyone who thinks so. It is 2022. And the fact that we still very much need to form an equity commission this far into our country's experiment in democracy is proof enough for many of us that things cannot continue the way they have thus far. To everything, there is a season, and the season for unlit corners of democracy is long over, whether or not those who are still desperately clutching at power like it or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kessinger? Okay, anyone from the audience? Hello, welcome.
Hi. Dr. Mary Miller from 471 Albemarle Avenue. So I'm here to talk again. I've talked to you before about guns, and I'm here to talk to you again tonight. I spoke in Stewart's Draft a 3 years ago, I'm not sure which, there were 1,800 people there, and almost everyone in the audience had a sticker on that said "Gun Saves Lives." So I have an article from the New England Journal of Medicine, which, as you know, is the premier medical journal throughout the world. And it's got a lot of information in it, so I will send it to you by email so that you can have it. I'm sure you've heard in the news that the number of deaths from guns has greatly increased. So this is about injuries are the most common cause of death in ages 1 to 24. And I think you just got a daughter married, so you're going to be thinking about little children. More than all other causes combined. Until 2017, motor vehicle accidents were the #1 cause of injury-related deaths. Now, firearm injuries are the #1 cause of death in these 1 to 24-year-olds or youngest. Firearm deaths are increasing. Motor vehicle crash deaths are decreasing. So why is that? Well, since 2000, in just 20 years, there has been a 40% decrease in motor vehicle deaths. And the reason is that there's a continuous improvement in motor vehicle safety. I'll just go through these quickly because you'll have them in writing. There's a public database for all motor vehicle related deaths. There's marketing. We know that we have many companies here that sell cars. So we have automatic braking systems, electronic stability controls, lane departure warnings, blind spot detections, side airbags, rear facing cameras, universal state level requirements, including licensing of drivers, registration of vehicles, both of which make it easier for states to establish and enforce safety management. Then for children, we have booster seat laws, child care seats became sturdier and more protective, standardized driver education, mandatory supervised driving hours, and other policies. This progress has reduced motor vehicle deaths. Unfortunately, the firearm industry and gun rights organizations led by the National Rifle Association have been effective in keeping federal dollars from financing firearm-related research. Federal funding has increased only in the past couple of years. In recent years, firearms available to citizens have become more lethal. Manufacturers are increasingly selling weapons designed for military use. Smart guns that can be fired by authorized users are not being developed or marketed. Smart guns could reduce the risk of children unintentionally shooting themselves or others, and of adolescents using guns for homicide or suicide. Actually, more deaths are caused by suicide with guns than homicide. Many states have made it easier for children and young adults, as well as adults, adults with criminal records, to gain access to firearms. Some states don't require background checks when firearms are purchased from private sellers, such as gun shows. Many of the same states have passed legislation allowing a person to carry a concealed weapon without a permit. At the federal the government has given firearm industry partial protection against certain lawsuits, which has reduced the industry's incentive to help prevent firearm-related deaths. One way to decrease deaths from firearm-related injuries would be to establish an agency whose mission is to prevent harm from firearms. Preventable deaths among young people take a personal toll. I don't know if you know anybody that's been killed, but it happens to families and it happens to
Okay, your
communities.
time is up. I'd love to have a copy of what you read, though.
You will, you'll all get a copy.
Thank you. Mr. Kessler, anyone on Zoom?
No, ma'am.
Right. Anyone else from the audience? Welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm Barbara Lee at 904 Rockaway Street, Stanton, Virginia. I was one of those who applied for every commission down here at downtown and the diversity program. Now, I'm going to say this. Anytime that I have applied for any type of job or position, I am been given a courtesy of saying thank you for applying. What's wrong with this council? We had 35 people who applied and none of them received a thank you for applying or anything. I mean, it's like you all do not appreciate our interest in this city. And it's kind of hurting to see that we have grown-ups that can't say thank you. We had Mrs. Scott here who set up a diversity program at Murray Baldwin University, but she didn't even get a call. Sheila Marty and myself, citizens of this community, we couldn't even get a call. My next step is, and I know it's not going to happen, but think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kessler, does anyone have their hand raised on Zoom?
No, ma'am.
All right. Welcome.
Hi, Yvonne Wilson, 2017 First Street in Stanton. I first wanted to say that today, I know everybody knows that I'm running for city council. And I wanted to thank the people of downtown, the citizens that I interacted with today. There's a lot of people that do not agree with my positions. They know them because I am transparent. But it was just beautiful to talk to the citizens of Stanton and just talk despite our differences. We were out there for 3 hours. I could have gotten more signatures, but I didn't. And I wanted to compliment the city of Stanton, its citizenry, as far as engaging with me, knowing where I stand and what I believe in, which may be the opposite of others. So thank you for that. I don't remember all the businesses. I apologize, but I thank you anyway. And just because, you know, I don't have a clipboard in my hand, that doesn't mean I'm not going to come around to lots of places in this city to engage with citizens, because I do want to hear what their concerns are straight from them and have a conversation. So that's wonderful. Secondly, I wanted to, because sometimes when people speak, I usually wait so I can actually hear what the citizens are thinking. And the subject of guns was brought up. And I think what people are neglecting is that, yes, there was an increase in gun deaths. There was also increase in suicide, domestic violence, due to the lockdowns. I understand everybody's fear with firearms, but I also understand that my race has historically fought for the right to defend themselves. We have seen at least a 58.2 increase in Black gun ownership. You can't tell people that we're dealing with a systematic, racist, sexist system where cops are trying to kill us, and yet expect us as people who fear that to not try and defend themselves. That's cognitive dissonance. That's intellectual dishonesty. Either we are afraid of the government, therefore the Second Amendment provides that provision, or we are comfortable with the government and there is nothing to fear from them at all. But you can't have both. That makes no sense. Here's my position. Most people are devastated that children are losing their lives to accidental gun deaths. But I also know that there are laws in place in lots of states where guns need to be stored, where bullets need to be stored. Some states, you have to have your actual firearms separate from your ammo at a certain minimum of feet. If their children are getting a hold of those guns, then those are not law-abiding citizens, are they? No. I've learned how to use a firearm, known for years. I'm also a former Marine, so I'm really good. But what I don't want happening is that if we have a fear of a government that is trying to kill minorities and hurt women, I don't want the government to take the very thing that could save my life. We also have an issue with firearms and suicide. There's a lot of mental health crisis going on. I had the pleasure of speaking with Chief Williams today, and he told me a story about mental health crisis. An 8-year-old was having a mental health crisis. 8. You can only imagine what that means. But they're stretched thin because there are no adequate services that are addressing these mental issues. So before you go blaming the gun again, please take a look at what's going on in people's heads. Find out where the brokenness is.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kessicker, does anyone have their hand raised in Zoom?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, caller, you may go ahead.
Hi, this is Mitch Narduzzi from South Jefferson Street. I'm calling in this evening, although I know that you will totally ignore me about this issue. And I'm calling in spite of the fact that you have proven that you will actively target dissenting voices in order to silence them. But I'm calling in because I feel obligated to point out recent actions by City Council that are concerning to me and to others in reference to the Diversity and Equity Commission. Not only did Council totally ignore very valuable community members that applied to be interviewed, people with massive amounts of experience and expertise in this area, and we know that you did not interview these people solely based on their name and your personal preference for their politics or their advocacy. In addition to that, the discussion about removing Councilor Meade as liaison to the commission for your supposed distrust of her is an obvious power play that does not belong in our local government. You're simply ego tripping. This move flies in the face of the very core intent of the commission to demonstrate as a collective community we are capable of honoring the very valuable and diverse talents of each concerned citizen that shows up to the table for these discussions that our city must undertake in order to provide justice and equity and opportunities for us all. The truth that you don't want to admit is that the community doesn't trust the majority of you. From the vice mayor's repeated faux pas using offensive verbiage and misappropriated quotes to the fact that our current mayor is well known for her shady campaign tactics that exploited Black spaces and then lied about and to our Black community members, the irony of the fact that she now wants to replace Councilor Meade as liaison is not lost on us. But to that I say, sure, open up the table to both Mayor Oakes and Councilor Meade. Make room at that table to demonstrate what diversity, inclusion, and equity look like in practical applications. The least you should do is to allow the commission to choose their liaison. Councilor Meade has the trust of the community members who have been advocating for this commission for years. The mayor does not. It's the simple truth. You need to check your ego. You need to remove the power dynamic. You need to practice inclusion and use this opportunity to educate yourself. And you must keep Councilor Meade as the liaison to the committee.
Thank you. Mr. Kesticker, does anyone have their hand raised? Oh, my apologies. Come on up. It's the audience's turn next. Hi, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Michelle Kirialason. I live at 241 Thorn Rose Avenue. First of all, before even, well, the clock started, whatever. It seems to me that we should acknowledge the fact that today our president noted the fact that we've reached 1 million deaths officially from COVID. And we should all be thinking about those people. Anyway, so choice has been on my mind this week. Choice is the interesting concept upon which the United States of America was founded. Rebellious new Americans chose to break away from an oppressive monarchy and create a new country based on inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was and still is an imperfect union, but it was based on an idea, the insubordinate, radical idea that as a citizen of this new America, you could have a choice and an active role in your own governance. Choice. It's taken more than 200 years, but bit by bit, we've added more and more active participants to this fledgling experiment in democracy. Former slaves and their descendants, women, gays and lesbians, transgender citizens, and immigrants from every corner of the world. Through the actions of the legislative and judicial branches of our government, and yes, the activism of ordinary people, we've worked to secure the rights wherever they've been threatened. These inalienable rights were already there. They just needed to be defined and protected from those who want to control people, the people they don't like or understand, the other people. When I was growing up, being a Republican or a Democrat didn't alienate citizens from one another the way it seems to today. Back before air conditioning, easy travel, and the insidious reach of social media, politicians in my sleepy southern hometown of Washington, D.C. may have disagreed, but they got along. They raised their children together, went to church together, and debated the issues in the House and the Senate until they could reach consensus. Admittedly, it was easier then, since almost all of them were male, white, and Protestant. But they found ways to compromise, meaning nobody got everything they wanted. Somewhere in the 90s, maybe 2000, 2010, we lost our way. The Electoral College and the Supreme Court began to figure more prominently in the selection of our presidents. The members of Congress worked in Washington part-time because they needed to go home every week to raise money to feed the beast created by Citizens United. The irony of that act is staggering. It isn't about citizens, but corporations, and we're certainly not united. We've been trying to find a new way of doing the business of government, but the growing pains seem to be killing whatever goodwill was still lingering, and many citizens are just plain tired of the fighting. I know I am. But this is exactly the time for citizens to become more engaged rather than less. The America that fought World War II is still worth fighting for. And if Ukrainians halfway around the world can hunker down in a steel factory and fight to the death for their country, we citizens of Stanton can certainly rise up to fight the bullies, liars, and tyrants, sometimes elected by a razor-thin margin, who turn up now and then to seize the reins of our government. Motives are tricky things to discern, but if you look long enough and hard enough, you can usually figure out who will benefit from any particular action. We can't sit back and assume things will just work out. Some resolutions that get jammed through can eventually be undone. Others can impact economic development forever. We have to watch every motion, every decision made in closed session, every resolution that seems questionable, particularly ones that pass without debate by the so predictable 4-3 majority we've come to know. I reckon this is going to get me in trouble, but I believe these decisions are carefully planned and orchestrated to give the appearance of democratic process. I believe most decisions are made before the items are even put on an agenda. I maybe not be able to approve a particular point.
Your time is up. Thank
So
you.
it's about choice.
Your time is up. Thank you. Mr. Kessler, does anyone have their hand raised?
No, ma'am.
All right. Anyone else from the audience? All righty. Well, with that, the matters from the public is now concluded. And as mayor of the city of Stanton, I call this meeting adjourned.